A company you've probably never heard of called DCS, or Deep Cycle Systems, is suing a dude you've probably never heard of named Stefan Fisher for defamation. This quite sorry saga orbits Mr. Fisher's review of DCS's lithium-ion batteries, which I thought seemed pretty balanced, following a long-term evaluation he did of those batteries in his vehicle. There are huge implications in this story for you, the consumer. It seems to me that if DCS is successful, this could be yet another nail in the coffin for appropriately balanced but honest, critical and independent reviews. This kind of sucks for reviewers like me, of course, but it also sucks profoundly for you. And in your case, we're talking like a golf ball through 50 metres of Nylex anti-kink if you want to learn what's actually wrong with some new product before you buy it. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au. New cars cheap, but Australia only. Website, card. Stefan Fisher is quite a sincere, nice, retired old dude. And when I say old, I mean kind of my age. And he runs a modest YouTube channel called All Off-Road 4x4 Adventures TV. Bit of a mouthful. It seems to me he's just not in it for the big bucks, you know? I suppose we've all got to do something, and for him, as well as me, this is certainly preferable to, I don't know, golf. Mr. Fisher reviews off-road gear, and he does videos where he visits Dingo Piss Creek and related destinations, although he doesn't do so while towing an acoustically transparent porter hovel weighing 3.5 tons and half full of his own effluent. And this is probably because he's German. I don't really know. But I have spoken to Mr. Fisher. We had quite a long chat several months ago when all of this kicked off, and I've also watched his video, the one that appears to be the main cause of DCS's opprobrium. We'll get to that. He's also got a video just up there, dude. It's all about him being sued. Have a click and a watch, and maybe flick him a sub too, because he certainly could use the support right about now. And I'll just sit here and wait patiently while you do all of that. Mr. Fisher strikes me as honest, dedicated, genuine and diligent. His review seemed authentic to me. I can't comment on the accuracy of his findings, of course, but if they are in error, I assume it's an honest one and that he would not be above correcting it. He doesn't seem, to me at least, like the kind of person who engages in cheap hatchet jobs. Now, I'm not going to make any comment about DCS's products, right? They could be okay or they could be shit. I neither know nor do I care. I'm merely going to give my opinion on this situation based on that video by Mr. Fisher and the conversation I had with him and other commentary I've seen about all of this in the public domain. I'm specifically not going to speculate on his guilt or innocence either. This report is my honest personal opinion. It's my honestly held view, right? As a reviewer generally, I do also promise to have an opinion in general about arsehole organisations, and I'm not talking about DCS when I say that, but arsehole organisations generally that don't like what someone says about them or their products on YouTube or some other forum. And then they take vexatious legal action hoping that the cost to the little guy of defending this claim might ruin them. And I'm not talking about DCS when I say this. It's a general concept that's out there in the background as we speak. I also hate that reviewers might be motivated by this defamation case to act more like fluffers on the set of a pornographic movie and less like honest critics of a product or service when publishing future reviews, especially if comment limitation by lawsuit kind of conduct, i.e. suing someone because perhaps you're ever so slightly butthurt, if that becomes a blood sport into the future. This report is sponsored by NordVPN. Get 4 extra months of Nord for free now. It's totally risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee at nordvpn.com/AEJC. Online security threats are everywhere, but you do not have to be the next victim. And that's where NordVPN comes in, locking everything down securely and efficiently in the background. Go to nordvpn.com/AEJC now. Every 2-year Nord plan receives 4 bonus months on top, plus a voucher for up to 20 gigs on Saley, Nord's new eSIM for travel. nordvpn.com/AEJC. Link in the description. Using NordVPN is dead easy. Just subscribe, download the app and connect. 1 click later, your IP address is shielded and your traffic is encrypted across as many as 6 of your devices. Nord is, of course, the fastest VPN on the planet. It costs only about as much as 1 cup of coffee every month to keep your data, your identity, and your devices secure. Masking your location means you'll be able to access streaming and other services that might be blocked where you live. Plus, you can continue to watch your favourite content when you travel. Go to nordvpn.com/AEJC now. Boost your security, enjoy those extra 4 months completely free on every 2-year plan, plus 20 gigs of Saley eSIM data for seamless online connection next time you travel overseas. It's all totally risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/AEJC. Link in the description. At the outset of all of this, let me say that defamation laws do not exist to protect assholes if their feelings simply get hurt. When I was a talkback radio host on Radio 2UE in Sydney, they got all of us hosts together one day and our producers, and they put us on chairs in front of a QC who specialised in defamation law, basically to limit the cost to the business, with live radio being such a defamation minefield. Like, you're in delay, you've got 7 seconds to decide if something is potentially defamatory, dump it, and then go again, right? It's pretty interesting. The bottom line is that nobody in journalism should really care how the subject of a story feels about the story. But you should always strive not to defame anyone, and if you do defame someone, it's always quite lovely if there is a viable defence. What's so wrong with car reviews is obviously all of these motoring so-called journalists worrying about what, 3-prong or whatever is going to think if I say this or if I say that. And this is not because they're particularly worried about being sued for defamation. It's just that they would really, really hate to jeopardise their next 5-star trip to Frankfurt or Paris, whatever. Reviewers actually need to put you first, right? You in the audience. If what I say in a review is true and accurate, well-informed, then that should be sufficient, even if it's harsher than 18 barbed wire enemas for the car maker or some other product manufacturer, even if it tastes like balls when they watch, and especially if it's funny. They so hate that. They detest it. Defamation laws exist to protect people, all of us, but in practice, just the rich. But people and small companies from having their reputations seriously and unjustly tarnished, right? The classic case here, just so you get it, right? The classic case is you publish a story, a tweet, whatever, or you get up in the middle of a crowded room with a megaphone or a restaurant or something, and you allege that somebody is a pedophile, a rapist, a murderer, a swindler, a thief, and an adulterer. In other words, you tick just about every defamation box. If you do that, you better hope there's a long list of respective criminal convictions on that guy's record and salacious photographs date stamped. Otherwise, you'll probably spend rather a lot of time in court over the next few months and probably also lose your house. This applies also to comments you make on social media, right? So it's not just journalists and reviewers who are at risk here. Not at all. But you should also be able to say, for example, that you feel that the Prime Minister is an out-of-touch clown because he once claimed in a press conference that solar panels could charge your electric car overnight.
And the future in many ways can be here right now, be very clear, is solar panels on the roof charging your vehicle for free overnight.
If you can't see what's wrong with that claim, you too could one day be Prime Minister of this busted-ass paradise. Dude. Car reviewers should be able to say that the Kia Tasman's absurd Technicolor clown pants look putrid. Restaurant reviewers should be able to say that the Hilton's $75 Wagyu beef burger tasted like turd. Great Dane. Whatever. Mainly, I think the concept of defaming a burger or a car or a battery is flat out absurd, especially if it's just your opinion and you say why and it's in the public interest to be having that discussion. Like, just do so without calling the CEO a rapist or something, without the court judgment in your hand, okay? That seems fair to me. There's a balance, in other words. Truth is a defence against defamation, but you have to be able to prove that what you are saying is true. And so is honest opinion. It's a defence too. There are caveats on how all of this stuff works, obviously, but that's broadly how it is. So, pro tip. If anyone ever threatens to sue you for defamation, you'll be getting a letter from their lawyer, possibly by email, but I would strongly advise you never write back and say, "I'm terribly sorry, I didn't really mean it." If you say you didn't mean it, you're going to lose your honest opinion defence, right? That could be very bad indeed. In New South Wales, individuals, not-for-profit organisations and companies with fewer than 10 employees can sue you for defamation. Big companies can't. So, in a sense, it's safer to criticise a car company than the corner shop or the Catholic Church. I'm therefore inferring that DCS has fewer than 10 employees. Otherwise, I doubt they could sue Mr. Fisher for defamation. In this case of being bigger, okay, companies might try injurious falsehood, which is similar to defamation, but not the same thing. However, with injurious falsehood, the standard of proof is much higher and it's usually unachievable. It's very hard to tick the 3 boxes that you need to tick to establish injurious falsehood. So that's mostly just used to threaten somebody. Now, from memory, Mr. Fisher's main beef with the DCS lithium-ion batteries he reviewed seems to orbit what he claimed is the diminishment of their capacity over the time of his test, which I think was 30,000 kilometres in 12 months or something. He also said some very positive things about DCS batteries. It seemed like quite a balanced review to me. I make no claim either way about whether his findings in the review were robust. Like, how would I know? But I can tell you that in general, when I've tested products and they disappointed or if they blew up in my face or something, I usually ring my contact at the manufacturer and I try to understand exactly what's going on here, because that's kind of important and there's layers of nuance to everything, right? For example, when I kept blowing up the latest Hyundai Kona electric by plugging a welder into its 15 amp 230 volt socket, I rang him up and I said, "Hey dudes, remember when I said I was going to test that with a welder and you said, okay, dude, go for it? Well, I'm going for it and it keeps frying the freaking car. What gives?" This was happening. Ultimately, we found out that The inverter in the car doesn't have the same surge capacity as the grid, go figure, and that's something I guess you should bear in mind for V2L type setups in the electric utopia of the future, perhaps. The point is, we worked together, we had an honest conversation, there was mutual respect, we worked it out, okay? They probably weren't overjoyed with that aspect of the review, although it was quite informative and a little bit funny. However, I doubt they had a serious meeting about suing me. Like, the word bastard might have been bandied about internally for a few weeks, but I'm at peace with that, you know, being one. I viewed Mr. Fisher's video on those batteries, the one that seems to be the subject of this claim, and I'm certainly no lawyer, but it seemed pretty tame to me. And a full-blown defamation lawsuit seemed like a pretty heavy-handed response. Disgracefully so, to me, personal opinion, like all of this report. And I'm definitely not talking about DCS next, okay, just so we're square on that. I'm just making general observations about suing someone because you had, you know, a bit of a tantrum and you feel entitled and you've got the cash. Remember when Ben Roberts-Smith sued the Nine Network for defamation? Nine alleged that he was a war criminal in some of its newspapers. He had what appeared, I guess, to me to be a tantrum, and he got his then mentor and fanboy billionaire boss, Kerry Stokes, to ante up the funds to sue Nine. Small problem, however, wasn't there? He lost. The federal court found that on the balance of probability, i.e. to the civil standard as opposed to the criminal one, he is a war criminal. So that's a problem. And this means that people can refer to him in this way forever and not especially worry about being sued. In other words, suing someone for defamation is not without certain intrinsic risks. In this case, he paid many millions of dollars to turn an allegation in a newspaper that would have been forgotten a few months down the track into a high-profile fact in the public domain. Here's another problem, potentially, if you're thinking perhaps about having a tantrum and suing the reviewer. Mr. Fisher's video on DCS's batteries was probably viewed by about, I don't know, 12 beard strokers, half a dozen Karens and the dog. And that dog may have been one of the Karens. I never judge on things of this nature. Low view count doesn't matter for defamation law. You only have to publish the defamatory imputation to one other person to be guilty of defamation. You can stand up in a restaurant and insult your guest to the waiter, and you can be the only three people who are parties to this conduct, and that's enough, okay? But in the case of the original video here, the original audience was kind of tiny. Like, it seems to me that not that many people statistically give sufficient fucks about batteries to detain themselves on an otherwise perfectly serviceable strip club Saturday evening, remaining in to watch an under-bonnet battery long-term test instead. And certainly I saw no stories that hinted that strip clubs in all major metro areas nationally reported a discernible drop in attendance the second Mr. Fisher's video was published. Like, go figure. So, initially, there was a tiny audience to this alleged offence. But when a guy like Louis Rossmann, with more than 2 million subs on YouTube, takes an interest in Mr. Fisher's legal plight from half the world away, this would be a serious issue for strip clubs worldwide. That video had 700,000 views in under 1 week. I'll put a link up there, dude. You should watch that one too. Click the timeline to about 6 minutes and then watch for up to about 7 minutes, 30 seconds. For me, that's the highlight. I certainly found that to be the most entertaining part. And personally, trouser leakage, for me, was at its peak from 7 minutes 9 seconds to about 7 minutes 14. I'm leaking a bit now just thinking about it. However, your mileage may vary, but click it, dude. You know you want to. The next big risk, I feel, therefore, if you're a butthurt idiot thinking about suing someone because they hurt your fucking feelings, and I'm not talking about DCS, just generally, would be the very serious risk of amplification. You could do far more reputational damage to yourself than the reviewer did initially. You could sue someone for damaging your reputation, but the ensuing coverage by people like Mr. Rossman of your tantrum could do more damage to your reputation than the original offending article could ever hope to have done, even if that was the intent. In the case of DCS specifically, I would argue that the lawsuit has raised their profile considerably, but none of the coverage I've seen has been positive for them. To me, it just kind of seems like they look bad, quite bad. It's not the kind of marketing that any sane organisation would covet. The practice of suing a reviewer because you just didn't like the review should worry you if you are a consumer of anything, obviously, because honest reviews are really, really helpful. Some would say essential, given the amount of choice there is in some product categories. Do you want to buy the best one or a midfielder? I'll take the best one every time, if you don't mind. And again, I'm not saying DCS is doing that. Like, in time, doubtless, those facts are going to be determined by a court, and I'm leaving that to them. I'm just saying, in general, when a company thinks this kind of conduct is reasonable or fair, on the balance of probability, what's the customer support going to be likely? Yeah? Is it going to be world-class or is it going to be crap? Especially if the reviewer is right and if they are highlighting serious flaws which the company may be aware of but has not rectified. And I'm not saying DCS is doing that either. I'm just mooting a general proposition for consumers and where reviewers fit in. What can you do? In this situation, like, it's easy to feel like this is happening around you and there's no real productive action you can take. Well, I'll tell you what I would do. I'd reach out to the company in question via their Contact Us page on their website, and I would tell them in very polite terms that you have heard about what's happening and this has influenced your decision to buy their products in the most negative possible way. Like, dear company, I heard about you prosecuting this particular chap in this particular way, and this conduct seems so egregious to me that I've decided never to buy one of your products. Have a lovely day. Hope the prosecution fails. Sincerely, me. Kind of thing. Just don't be rude, okay? And don't do it on Facebook or X either. These are public forums and you are therefore publishing your comments to the world, which opens the door to you getting sued for defamation. Unlikely, but possible. Kind of depends on how much of a psychopath the CEO is, and I'm definitely not talking about DCS in respect of any of that. I'm also not telling you to do this to DCS. I don't give a shit if you communicate with them or not. Just, this is what I would do, okay? It's a general proposition which I feel could constitute valuable commercial feedback for any company suing a reviewer because he said the burger tasted like, I don't know, a wino's ass, as they say in America. And obviously, I also wouldn't buy their friggin' product. This is something they would probably understand better than almost anything else, I'd suggest. Also, you should whip over to Stefan Fisher's YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description. Give him a sub, dude, for nothing more than the moral support which I am certain a dude like him could use right now. He also has a GoFundMe to help with what might amount to an eye-watering $200,000 legal bill. It's a pretty expensive review. isn't it?